Good morning and welcome to another great Tuesday morning at Money Truth Moments with our very own Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I am having the best day ever. How are you doing, Carlos?
Fantastic also, right? Beautiful sunny day. What more can we ask for, right? We're here. Love our moments here at Money Truth Moments. And folks, if you're just joining us, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. Hey, we're going to continue on our series, and it's also it's been a very very good subject and a very tough subject at the same time, because we're talking about married couples and money, right? So it always goes, there's a fine balance between it. If you haven't followed the show or you're just joining us, please look at some of the other episodes as well. We've talked a lot about money moments, what decisions should married couples make together. How do we decide if which spouse is the one that takes the lead on money? So there's a lot of great content that you guys need to really go back and take a look at too. So today, because I don't want to run out of time, and this is such a great subject, is we're going to talk about and this is a heavy one too, folks. So we're going to talk about the reasons for divorce, spelled M-O-N-E-Y, power issues, right? So I'm going to let you take the floor, Judy. I mean, I'm sure you've come across a lot of this in your career. So talk to us about reasons for divorce when it comes to finances and money.
Well, that's one of the big ones. And I think it's because money is intertwined with pretty much everything we do. Our activities, our families, our livelihood, our housing, pretty much everything we do requires money. Or it has to do with trying to get money into the household. So there's a lot of power around the subject of money, a lot of power around having money. And that means it can be a powerful tool. And tools, just like, any tools, if you gave a 4-year-old a hammer, they could do a lot of damage with that hammer, especially if you got windows or thumbs. But they could also build you a beautiful birdhouse. So the hammer is actually neutral. It's how it's used as a tool that can be really good or really not so good. And money's the same way. So money can be used as a powerful tool to build a future and grow a family and have an impact on the world and your community, making a difference out there in your neighborhood. And with, kids that need uniforms for school, or, kids that need breakfast or lunch, or, dogs that need homes. There's so many wonderful causes out there, causes that we care about. So money is a way to do a lot of good. It can also be used as a weapon and a way to manipulate people. And sometimes we see that in marriages. And when you look and, kind of do an x-ray of a marriage that failed, there are usually those two power plays that were at play in a failed marriage. And one of them is the way money was used against one spouse or the other. Well, I'm going to spend it before you do. Well, you're not making as much. Well, you're spending too much. All of those things, it comes down to money, because it's just an easy conversation to have because it's in the middle of everything. And then the other one is sex and the sexual relationship. And that's another show. We're not going to talk about that here. Right. But those are the two things, the intimacy and the cash, are the two big ways that you have these powerful tools that can be used for total harmony or for total destruction. And money is one of those things. So part of my practice over the years in helping thousands of clients and their families and their businesses and their ministries has been to work through some of these power plays with money and try to take the manipulation out, make the tool something that's really valuable and forward moving for the couple, for the family, rather than something that can be used against them and destructive. Because it certainly can be powerful in either direction.
So you mentioned also one of the key things that we come across, I think, when we're first starting out in marriage, right? We don't really know. You're kind of used to doing your own things, right? Mm-hmm. You have your own account. You're not really, you don't have anybody really to tell you how to spend your money, what to do. But now when you come together, it just creates, sometimes it works out right out of the gate and sometimes it doesn't. What are maybe some things that for young folks who are looking to get married that they should prep for to try to avoid some of these pitfalls right out of the gate?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is communication. You've got to talk about how you're feeling about everything, but particularly with money. And there are certain areas of money that we have, like attitudes that we bring into a marriage, or that maybe we brought to a marriage. Maybe it's a 10 or 20-year marriage, but you've never had the conversations. You just kind of steam, and then you're at the boiling point, and then it goes away, and then the boiling point, and it goes away. But it's conflict. Even if it's unsaid, it's conflict. So I think one of the most important things is to talk about it, to bring those out. And I'll give you a list of areas to have a conversation about if you're not sure what it is. Where does this tension come from? Well, chances are, if you're married to someone, you didn't grow up in the same household. Right? It's funny. I speak all over the country, and I used to joke about that and say, when I was down in the South, or, some places, I'd say, well, I got to be careful what I say in different parts of the country, but most people didn't grow up in the household of their spouse, right? You married somebody outside the family. Ha, ha, ha. So anyway, what's important about that is every family does money differently. And everyone has a different evolution about how they learn their attitudes about money. What was modeled for them in the home? Did they talk about money a lot or not at all? If there was a conversation about money, was it heated? Was it an argument? Or was it just like left unsaid and you have no idea? I still honestly have no idea when I was a kid who handled the checkbook. I have an idea who I think might have, but my dad was in business. My mom was a teacher, and I really don't know who paid the bills, how they got paid, if they were ahead, if they had a big savings. I have no idea. I have no clue about money in my house growing up. They didn't discuss it in front of us kids. And I think that's kind of a disservice. We went the other way with ours. We told them everything, good, bad, and ugly. Here's what the bill is. Here's what this bill is. Here's how we do a house. Here's how we buy a car, all of that. So I wanted them to not learn on the streets. Fortunately, I didn't learn just on the streets. I went to college, and I have, a lot of credentials that helped me learn how to do all that. And it's been a blessing to help other people. But the point is, everybody grows up with a different way of doing money in their household. So you bring that in. So the short list of areas to have a conversation about money, we'll start with earning. What does it mean to earn money? Are we earning enough? Are we earning too much? Who earns it? He earns it. She earns it. The kids earn it. You need to have conversations about earning money. The next one is spending money. That's usually where the conflict comes in, because we don't always see what they're spending or what their values are. And we put money where our values are, right? Our money and time go there. So, well, you're spending too much. Well, you're golfing. Well, you're shopping, right? So who's really spending too much? That's a conversation. So how much should be spent? It might be a good idea, if you've never done it as a couple, to create a spending plan. Some people will call that a budget. And there's great apps for that. You can just get on your phone. Or if you're a spreadsheet person, we've got great spreadsheets that can help you do that. But have a spending plan so your expenses are agreed upon, not to the nickel or the penny. If one of you is kind of Nazi about that, it's going to drive the other one crazy from my experience. So just have a benchmark or a threshold, kind of a lane in which you stay for each expense. And then saving money. What does it mean to save? For one of you, if you have more than $27 in the bank, you're happy. And the other one feels like, no, we need to have several months, maybe lots of months of expenses saved up. If something happened, I want to make sure I have that security. And the level of security is going to be different. It's never identical when you're looking at a couple. So earning, spending, saving.
Earning, spending, saving. I like that.
Yep.
And as we keep talking about this also, I want to welcome folks that are just joining us. Thanks for being here this morning. If you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. We're going to talk about her website. We're going to talk about resources available. And it's actually going to lead me to another question that I'm going to put off for a little bit, just so we can tie that in as well too. But I want to touch on something it's somewhat related, because it affects kids, especially in divorce, right? But you mentioned the fact that sometimes, like when you grew up, you didn't know anything. Your parents kind of left you out of the loop with that. And same with me, right? And it's sometimes I kind of hear that more often than not, that you shouldn't involve kids in the process. They shouldn't know, like if you're having financial issues or whatever, they shouldn't be exposed to that. Talk to us a little bit more about that. Like you said for your kids, it was totally different, totally the opposite way. Tell us share with us some of that, because I think it's very important as well.
Yeah, it is important. The biggest thing is communicate. Let your kids learn from your experiences so they don't have to make all the same mistakes when they grow up because they might. And if you can save them from that, why wouldn't you want to give them that shortcut? But I believe the opposite of, hiding it from your kids or don't share with them, good, bad, or ugly. You want to let them know when you spend money what it's like, good times and bad times.
Mhm.
It's like we're struggling right now. We don't have enough, for whatever. You want to make sure you do it carefully, though. You don't want to ever threaten their security, right? Or their sense um, of comfort, their sense of, I guess it's the security thing. It's like I'm secure in my home, my family. Even if you have to move, if you lose a house or you get kicked out of your apartment, whatever, it's okay. But you want to make sure they know we're going to be together. We're going to be okay. We're going to have a place. So you don't want to threaten that sense of security or confidence that they have, because that will carry through in their life too, right? But you should talk to them about regular bills that you pay. When you go to the grocery store to buy groceries or go out to eat or whatever, talk about what we're spending and what that means. I had to work 2 hours, be away from you for 2 hours to earn the money for this meal or for these groceries. And, start to give them a perspective of what it takes, where the money comes from, and how it translates in their life, particularly with spending, because that's something we do almost every day. We pay a bill or buy something almost every day. So it's easy to model that for kids and involve them in those conversations. But you want to let them know, when you buy, let's say you buy a new laptop or you buy a car, talk to them about it. And when people buy cars, sometimes they'll lease them. Sometimes they'll just go pay cash. Sometimes they'll take a payment and pay some interest over time. Talk to them about that and the expenses that come with the car. It's not like you buy a car and you park it and that's it. There's oil changes, there's maintenance. You got to put gas in it, or plug it in, right?
Right.
There are things that you need to do. You get a rock hits the windshield, you got to get a new windshield. It's a good opportunity to talk about insurance, right? Which most people have to have on their car too. So there's so many things that you can do, opportunities that you have when you're working with children, school age kids, or even young adults to involve them so they can learn from you while they're growing up and not have money be a conversation that's a vacuum.
I have to share with you some of the comments that we've heard because we've talked about a lot of great subjects and all of that. So it's become really. I've heard you've been called also the financial therapist because when we're talking a lot about this stuff, it's actually really more. It's somewhat of a therapy session, right? There's ways that you're bringing up things, other ways for us to look at situations. Period. Right. One of the key things you said also was that everyone is different, right? Everybody is different in how they grew up, how they handle money. There's not a cookie cutter way of doing things too, but there are some good wisdoms that you've shared with us and best practices, right? So we talked a little bit about the young couples looking to get married, some of the things that they should look for. Let's talk a little bit about those that are already been married for a while, right? This has been a struggle. This is the part where it's like teetering, whether they get divorced or not. What are some things that maybe that you've seen that could help some of those folks, take a step back and work on this?
Yeah, yeah. Well, chances are, if you've been married for a while, you are not in total agreement. And if you agreed everything, 100% about everything, one of you is unnecessary. So why be married, right? So it's not going to be total agreement. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be differences of opinion and different sore spots and different happy places because you're not the same. So I would say celebrate those differences, bring them together. And again, this is where communication comes in. Talk about it. What's really stressing you, honey? What's really bothering you about that? Well, I feel like we need more in savings. Okay, now we know it. We put our finger on it. Let's just work toward that. Or I feel like, we're just spending too much. Maybe we should be putting more away for later, or we should be maybe giving more, sharing more with the community and causes that we love. Maybe we could do that. Okay, well, let's just work toward it. So it doesn't have to be black and white. We're failing or we're succeeding. You can always move toward it. I think a spending plan in a particular, it's a moving, breathing thing. It's not like this one month and this the other month. And that's where you get that Nazi, controlled person. Lighten up. It's a work in progress and it's going to change. And you're probably never going to hit your mark to the penny. Let it go. let it go, right?
Sure,
So
there you go.
let it go, lighten up. So it's a work in progress. Now you can work toward having more savings or having more money earmarked for your goals, your midterm, long range goals. You can work toward that if you feel like insecure in the future. And it's kind of a generalization, but for most women, it's that security that they're looking for. They want to be secure in their home, secure in their future income, their future, all of that. Make sure their kids are okay. It kind of an overgeneralization because men care about those things too. But women, they just really want their nest, right? They're going to start a family or grow their family. They want their nest okay. And I don't want to, I don't want to think that we can't make our house payment because that's my nest, right? I want to make sure it's furnished and comfortable. For men, a lot of times it's about the longer term, the long range, the employment and the career. Overgeneralizing, of course. But that's usually a conversation that we have as a couple. One is more about security and one is more about growth. And so a good plan will manage all of that into an integrated plan where we have a clear vision, everybody's communicated, everybody can see where we're going, where all the dollars are allocated to achieve all those goals. So everybody's needs are met. And that's something that you can do at home too. But you've got to have the conversation. You've got to talk about it. When you're talking about the roles, who's going to do the filing and who's going to haggle with the car dealer and who's going to be setting up all the banking accounts and the automatic payments for utilities, all those little things you have to do. Who's good at one thing? Who's good at another? So it doesn't have to be that one person is the financial person and the other one just kind of is along for the ride. Some marriages are that way, and that's fine. For others, they kind of split the tasks. But what I would encourage you to do, especially if you've been married 10, 15, 20 or more years, you've kind of done it the same way for a while, revisit it. Have a conversation and say, what skills do I have? What gifts have I learned at my job or developed over the years where I could really be good at that now and take it off of you and share those responsibilities? I think it's a great conversation to have. And sometimes these hidden gifts and talents come out. I didn't know I was good at that. I've never tried it. It's amazing. And what that does to unite a couple, to bring harmony to the couple, is just profound and wonderful to see.
I love that. And I think it's actually a good segue also to talk about now some tools and more particularly things that are on your website, judycopenbarger.com. So talk to us about the website. Talk to us about some of these amazing, folks, I'm going to say it, free resources that are on your website. Share with us what's on there and what folks can benefit from that as well, too.
We love free. And I'm at the point in my life, my career, my work, where I just really want to share what I've learned over the last 40 years or so with all these families and ministries and businesses. I want to share it with the world, and it's part of my legacy. So I'm happy to share some of this information and all the free stuff. So on judycopenbarger.com, the website, there are all kinds of articles there. There are videos there on every subject. How much should I give? Should I buy or lease a car? What's a bond? What's a stock? What kind of IRA should I be invested in? 401k, how do I know what a mutual fund is and am I paying too much? All this stuff, wills, trusts, all of that. So there's videos for all of that. They're free. You can go on YouTube as well. There's lots of videos on YouTube, just under my name. But all of that's there for you. There's also a special place that you can go if you'd like to. You can click and go to the Amazon site where we have a bestseller out there, Money, Truth, and Life. And you can get that book. You can read it on Kindle or order the real book. In fact, if you contact me, I'll sign one and send it to you. I love for people to have this information. Online, there's also a Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program, which is a course that I built for people to go to. And you can watch videos, courses, and classes on everything financial. Anything that has to do with small business or family finance, it's all there. And it's organized into the 5 pillars of finance. There's all the legal things, entities for business and trusts and powers of attorney and wills and things like that, how that works, taxes, right? Taxation is in there. Investments, what kind of investments, the economic background behind some of the investments, insurances. Should I have tort liability insurance? Should I have business insurance at work? What kind of car insurance should I have? Health insurance, Medicare insurance, life insurance, all of that is in there. So there is so much in this course about how to manage your money, how to grow it but protect it at the same time. It's amazing, and it's all right there for you at judycopenbarger.com. And it's the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And I hope you'll visit. Right now, we have it set so you can watch as many classes, as many courses as you want for 7 days without a subscription. So that's free. And we want you to go there. We want you to learn what you can. Maybe you've done life for a while, you've done money for a long time, but you might gain a new perspective, a new way of thinking about something financially that you're doing to get you to the next level and optimize your financial life. So that's all there for you. Enjoy, and I would love to hear your feedback.
Awesome. You heard that, folks. So please, again, follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. Take a look, take some time to look at all these amazing free resources, and I guarantee you won't be sorry. You're always going to learn something new, like we do every Tuesday morning here at 8 a.m. So Judy, so we talked about several topics before marriage, during marriage, and the inevitable is life happens. Sometimes things don't work out. People get divorced, right? Doesn't mean that life stops. Sometimes other folks, folks get remarried or, end up in different situations. So let's touch on that. What's the after look like? What are some things that we should be aware of once that's done?
That's a great question, because there is a lot of mopping up that happens when there's a failed marriage or a dissolution of marriage. So one thing to think about is when you're married, let's say you have kids, you think about, life insurance for them, making sure that they're going to be raised okay, pay for college if you're not around or whatever. So you want to make sure that that is still in place if you have a dissolution of marriage, a divorce, right? Who's going to cover the life insurance? Who's going to cover the college costs? Who's going to cover medical? Are we going to have them on one insurance or the other now that we're not a unified household? Are we going to split the difference? Who's going to pay the copays? Who's going to put the braces on? Right? All of that needs to be worked out. And unfortunately, again, it's a power play. Money can be a power play. And that's often where the contentious relationship starts in a dissolution, dealing with the attorneys and going through, well, how's the money going to go now? It can be a real tricky place with the power play and the anger and all the emotion that comes out. Conversations that should have happened in marriage happen after. And sometimes it's not pleasant. And money is kind of, the culprit, or the blame for all that. So you want to, if you have a dissolution, think about how the kids will be cared for if you've got, minor children still or young adult children. If you don't, let's say it's one of these, heaven forbid, marriages this 20, 30, 40 years along, and then there's a divorce. I really don't understand that, but it happens a lot out there. And I would kind of like to be able to fix it before, but sometimes I get a couple or one of the divorcees after. And you got to really think about, how am I going to be cared for now? So at one point I had a spouse that would be my caregiver if I needed it, that would make sure that I had a good facility or a nurse, if I needed long-term illness, care down the road. Well, who's that caregiver going to be now? Am I willing to have my children do that for me? Or do I not want to burden them? Do I need to think about an outside source for that? Either plan extra savings, have some kind of an insurance in place. What's going to be my long-term care plan if I need it? And statistically, a lot of us are going to need it at some point. So that's worth thinking about. It might not be on, the top of mind for a lot of people because they're dealing with other issues.
Mm-hmm.
But what would that be like? And what's my housing going to be like? And now maybe we had a pension with one spouse that would have been for both, and now it's not. I might need to make new arrangements for my retirement savings plan because I was counting on a pension, or there was a big 401k, that we were going to share, and now we're not. What am I going to do? So those are some things that I would put on the short list to think about after a divorce.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's a heavy subject, but we've talked about, beginning, middle, and also it's just the inevitable, right? And unfortunately, it does happen. As much as we don't want it to, it happens more often than not, it seems like, for whatever reason. It always sometimes extends around, for the most part, finances, right? And that's one of the things that you also said is communication is huge. And that's something we always got to take a look at too. So I appreciate you sharing that piece too. Folks, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys being here Tuesday mornings, Money Truth Moments. But guess what? We're at the end of the show, and it's our favorite time, which is... it's our Money Truth Challenge. What have we got this week?
All right, here's your challenge. So we're going to try to pull this marriage together and have this conversation. So we're going to take pen and paper and write down 3 things. And this would be a great exercise if you are married. You do it, he does it, he does it, she does it separately, and then come together with your notes. So the first thing is, number 1, how can we work together better? And you might come up with a couple things that have just, it's been that issue of tension that spins and spins. And here it is again, a couple years later, here it is again, here it is again. We still have tension around this, or we fight around this financial area. What is that? Let's bring it to the surface, pop the zit, right? Let's just get it up and down. So one simple, single doable thing, SSDT, simple, single doable thing, one thing. What's the one thing that we're going to do to work together better? Number 2, define the roles. We talked a little bit about how you have gifts, you have talents. Maybe you're good at organizing, you're good at preparing for taxes, going through the statements. You're good at dealing with the utility companies, dealing with the mortgage bankers, whatever. And one of you doesn't like to be on the phone doing that kind of thing. You have different skills, different talents. One of you is really good about calendar and to remember to update your driver's license, to update your passports, to resubscribe to your whatever your what's that radio when you're in the car and it's a XM radio?
XM or Sirius radio, either one. Yeah.
One of those is like every year here comes the bill, and if you miss it, now you have no radio, right? So who's really good at calendaring all that stuff that you have to remember, paying the premiums on time and things like that? One of you might be really good at that. And if you're not the one doing it, why not? So just sit down, both of you, and define those roles. What gifts and skills do you have that you could be using better in the marriage? It's funny, when you're in your 20s, life is kind of simple. You have a couple bills, you have a couple sources of income. It's kind of simple. And then it can get really complex. Now you have a rental, and now you're helping care for family. And now you've got kids, and there's tuition and more payments and more, it just gets like there's more to do. And maybe it's time to revisit that and redefine the roles just to take the pressure off one or the other of you. So that's number 2. Number 3 is calendar the next meeting the 2 of you are going to have. Keep it going. Keep the conversation going. So if you had this meeting, you actually do this homework and you get a lot of leverage out of this. When's the next one going to be? Where you say, what have we changed and how's it going? Kind of debrief the process. Maybe you need a calendared meeting 2 weeks from now. It could be on a date night even. Maybe 4 weeks from now. Let's give it a month. Let's see how it goes with you doing that, me doing this. Let's clean up all this stuff that's been on the dining room table or on the, the nightstand for months. Let's just clean it up and get our house in order and define the roles, get it done. So there you go. Number 1, how can we work together better financially? Number 2, what are the roles? Let's define those or redefine them. And number 3, what's our plan moving forward? When are we going to calendar our next meeting and keep it going? That's your challenge.
There you go, folks. And as always, please share with us. You can send us a message. Let us know how you guys are doing out there as well, too. And we're coming to the end of the show, but I want to make sure, is there any last parting words, Judy, before we leave today?
Yeah, do it. But I really want the feedback. This is where I get so many wonderful creative ideas. It's like, I never thought of doing it that way, from clients, right? From people that are watching the show. Give us your feedback of what you did and how well it worked or not. And that's information we can use to share other people. So I'd love to have that feedback and make it a great week.
Awesome. Folks, thank you for joining us today. If you just joined us, we're at the end of the show, but make sure you watch the beginning of it. We've been covering a lot of great sections for today's show. Unfortunately, it's a heavy subject, but it's very productive and all the wisdom that Judy shared today. And if you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. Remember, we're here Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m. Share with a friend. And until next week, we'll see you guys later. Take care.